Hello and a very warm welcome to ET Studios at Brand Equity Martech Plus Summit powered by CleverTap. I'm your host Divina Lasson. And on this episode, we are going to deep dive into driving hyper-personalized experiences and digital transformation in BFSI. So to discuss this and much more, joining me are esteemed guests, Francis Rodrigues, SVP E-commerce and Digital Marketing, HDFC Life, and Abhishek Gupta, COO, CleverTap. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for joining. It's a pleasure to have you today. So, Francis, to kickstart, if you can help us understand a little bit of context setting here about how you've seen Martech tools really impacting your sector, any specific tools that you've been adapting recently that has drastically changed the customer experience and customer journey?
No, surely. I think today it was marketing and then technology, or marketing and then a separate IT function. Today, I think all of it is merged into what is called as Martech, and the modern marketer has to be very well versed with technology and understand how it can be used to better meet all his KPIs, whether it is customer experience or whether it is new business generation. We see a lot of Martech tools, right from how your website is hosted and how quickly can you author new things, right up there to campaigns which are done with your both existing customers as well as new to business prospects, right from personalization tools, both on site and off site, to web-based analytics. Right all the way to various sort of predictive models and customized ML models for both new and existing customers. So there's a whole bunch of technology coming in. I mean, traditionally it used to be the biggest technology that marketing had was basically a customer relationship management tool. Today it's just one part of an entire ecosystem of things in place.
So what does it take to measure the success and efficacy when you use any of these tools in your campaigns? Any specific metrics that you could share with us?
See, ultimately the sort of end state metrics are always going to be business metrics, right? So these business metrics are typically in the form of revenue generated. In the case of insurance, it's basically measured in terms of the number of policies or the annualized EPI. So these are obviously the end state metrics. But there are a lot of other, sort of lead metrics in place, right? So, for example, your click-through rates, how many people are coming and visiting your site, the amount of session time which is spent, if you're sending communication, how many people are engaging with that communication at different points in time. So there are a bunch of sort of lead metrics measured by marketers, but ultimately, I think the final metrics will always be, what has been the business uplift, what has been the return on ad spend or technology spend that you have.
Sure, absolutely. Abhishek, let's get you in on this. So again, in your experience, what are some of the more innovative, cutting-edge Martech tools that are being used in the BFSI sector? And how would you say is the best way institutions can look at measuring the success, actually, of using these tools?
Yeah. So when we think about Martech, typically what happens is we think about a campaign and we think about conversion rates. And then the example that instantly comes to our mind is e-commerce. Yeah. That's how the technology has been perceived. Now, BFSI is a very different space. Yes, there, the currency is trust. When we engage with consumers in banking and financial services, it's important to build the trust. So every single time, like one has to engage with a consumer, you have to actually build upon the trust that already exists, and you have to create incremental trust. Yes. So every single engagement either adds up to the trust or actually duplicates that trust, depending upon how you go about doing it. Yes. So I think it's a space which impacts everyone. I think all of us use one or the other financial services product. Insurance in particular is even more so trust-based, because it's not something you're actually giving money to someone with a hope that you will actually get the help that you need in an hour of need. Yes. So the trust quotient is very, very different. And fundamentally, the tech and the business processes and the way we think about customers, it's very, very important that at all touch points, we're actually increasing the trust that exists between the brand and the consumers. And the tech has a very important role to play, because what you have to do, and Francis said it, like you have business objectives, right? But at the end of the day, you have objectives with respect to consumers. Yeah. And the tech has to essentially help in navigating the fine balance, making sure that we are operating in a precise manner. That precision comes from tech, because one can truly understand what a specific customer values, what are the things that basically would enhance trust with them, what are the things that truly would create value for them in their lives. And I think utilizing all of the data, utilizing tech like CleverTap, and in association with, I think our customers also use their internal tools as a part of this process. Using all of that to create these experiences, I think that's the critical aspect of the journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, Francis, taking from that, what does it really mean to you to create these personalized experiences, right? And as Abhishek has mentioned, trust is such an important factor, especially in this industry. So, what does it take to create those personalized experiences, getting your customers to trust you, and ensuring that whatever strategies you're putting forward really impact the customer at the end of the day? It's not just a marketing campaign or a gimmick.
So I think to start with, you need to kind of be very transparent to the customer, right? So we kind of have the entire HDFC Life website where people come and buy, and they can drop their name, numbers, and email ID and PI information. A lot of people who want to just explore and learn about insurance and everything else, and they're always worried, what if we get a call, or what if we people start chasing us? So we've created something absolutely for them, and especially for our younger customers, called Clarify Life, where you at no point in the website you ask any personalized information, and you can kind of go and figure out everything that you need in terms of how much insurance do you need, basis your income, basis your life goals and everything else, and be able to kind of go through the entire experience without feeling pushed or hassled, right? So I think the starting point is transparency, figuring out and speaking to the customer in the way he wants to be spoken to. The second thing I think is to be able to kind of ensure that you have consistency, apart from transparency. So if you have, say, for example, chatbots, and today customers can reach out to you at various touch points. There's a Twitter bot, there's something on Facebook Messenger, there's WhatsApp, there's your chatbot on the website, etc. All of them need to speak the same language. You cannot have a different answer being given to each of them, right? So what needs to happen is perhaps a common sort of NLP engine which powers that, and so that there is both consistency in what you're talking to customers about, and also there's a common brand voice which is coming out, right? So that again increases that kind of trust. So I think these two things are paramount, and ultimately it's finally your brand promise, whatever you're promising to deliver as a product. Right? Because everything else is communication. If basically what you're promising as a product itself is not great, then everything else cannot do anything about it.
That's right.
So I think that's the final promise, which is a brand promise.
Yes.
And what does the brand promise you?
But for HDFC Life, I'm sure it's quite complex because you're dealing with quite a diverse demographic ultimately. How do you ensure that you're really targeting each aspect of the demographic in an authentic, personalized way that's relevant to them?
So we try to kind of, yes, the demographic is diverse, because at one end we have, the very first time somebody thinks about insurance is when they take up their first jobs, and this is about salaried people, and that's the first time they think about, oh yeah, I need to do some tax saving, why not insurance, right? So that's the first thing. And obviously towards, end of life, one of the most important things that you worry about is, what if I run out of money? Right. So therefore, we have also annuitants at the other end, as people who have bought an annuity product for us and they're receiving a monthly pension, right? So you have both ends of the spectrum, and each end of the spectrum behaves very differently, right? So at one end of the spectrum would want, more face-to-face experiences, a human at the other end, somebody to see and do things. So therefore, then you have technologies like, say, a video-based calling, because this customer is comfortable only when you have somebody else to see at the other end. And at the other end, you have, the younger customers who are much happier, interacting and working with you completely on chat. And then you have chat and you have WhatsApp-based journeys where you can kind of go through the entire, journey without necessarily speaking to someone at the other end.
Sure. So it really depends. That level of personalization comes in. Abhishek, in your experience, how do companies do exactly this? What does it take to understand the various demographics they are addressing? What are some of the new tools and innovation that really assist companies in this process?
Yeah, see, at the end of the day, it really comes down to truly understanding the customer. I'll take one of the examples that Francis shared, and it's such a interesting thing. Our first tryst with insurance for most of the people, most of the professional, is in the month of March, in the first year of job.
Okay, yes.
And that is to do tax saving, right? And that's the first time we look at insurance, and it's thought of as a financial product, like where you make an investment. It's like a fixed deposit. You make an investment and you will get. And then on the other hand, like we have something called term insurance, the understanding about which is actually quite low. Because I remember an example long back ago when I had a conversation about term insurance with someone. And they said, how much would you get in return? Like, what would you get later on? I said, nothing. And that was funny. So I think what we are really seeing is there are 2-3 aspects at play. Number one is, I think when it comes to BFSI, there is a huge amount of market. The latent need is perhaps far bigger than the current needs that we see on the surface. So I think the brands and companies like us working alongside brands, we have to sort of unearth those needs, latent needs, and find ways and means to fulfill those needs. Now, the way to go about doing is by actually paying a close attention to customer journey. Paying very close attention to the data which the customers are sharing with us, and utilizing the data to actually not think about it in a silo, but actually thinking about the consumer and see how can we take all of that aggregate data and improve the lives of the consumers. How can we actually take a step function approach towards the change that we want to bring in? And I think in our society, more than a lot of other society, that is the need of the hour, particularly in BFSI. And I think the third thing is, I think utilizing, all of this is hard, and it needs to be easy. Because marketeers' jobs are not easy today. They're very, very hard. And I think that's where the tech comes and plays a very important role, making it very seamless and easy for marketeers to go and do experimentation, figure out what the customer journey is using simple tools. And I think that's where tech has a very pivotal role to play to making the lives of a marketer easy, so that they can in turn improve the lives of the consumers.
Absolutely. Francis, agree with this, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Just in summary, is there a key takeaway that you have when it comes to the role of Martech in BFSI and really the advantage of working with companies like CleverTap to help you on that journey?
Sure. I think the role of marketing in Martech and BFSI is there across the entire journey, right? Right at the sort of prospecting stage before they become customers, you have this whole thing about how do you kind of have more personalized experiences. If somebody is coming to your website again, how do you kind of more personalize that second visit, even if you don't have his contact details, etc., based on what he's browsed in the past, where he spent more time in the past and everything else, all the way to from the point of lead generation and interest generation, what is specifically the kind of thing which is motivating the customer towards looking at your product. How do you kind of speak to him in a manner which basically is in the same sort of wavelength as what he comes. There can be different needs. Somebody is buying insurance out of fear, out of basically the need to secure. Somebody else is looking at it from an aspirational perspective. I'm going to invest this money and it's going to grow for me in the future. Somebody else would have a very specific goal in place, or a parent or a child or somebody else to secure. So how do you kind of communicate to them based on their past browsing behavior, based on their lifestyle, based on everything else, and get them to take the next step towards investing in you. The next piece is the entire customer onboarding process, and it's quite a bit in insurance, right? You have you have basically a form which needs to be filled, which is a fairly long form. We ask you a lot about your demographics and everything else. Then there is the KYC, which is mandatory across all financial services. You have both the sort of financial underwriting, which is basically the source and the quality of funds, right? Which could be salary slips and bank account statements, or in the case of self-employed people, it's a whole bunch of other things. Then there is a medical underwriting, which is basically going through the entire medicals. And in products like term insurance, as you were mentioning, what you get at the end of the day is basically a PDF. Right. So and it's something, and it's not even short term, it's long term, right? The customer is trusting you. He's not only he's trusting you to promise to pay you over a period of time, which could be as long as 20, 30, 40 years, right? And delivering on that trust and giving him the confidence that you're there to honor his skin should something happen.
Absolutely.
Right. I think that, and conveying that is basically what the entire post-sales experience is all about, and technology helps deliver that. If he's trying to reach you and he's unable to get through, right, and he's emailing you and you're not responding, or he's not getting the right query solved, I mean, how does he get the confidence that you'll be around when he really needs you, or when his family really needs you? Right. So I think technology plays a very important role there in that entire long gestation period.
Yes. Wonderful. Really helps build that trust factor at the end of the day. Yes, wonderful. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here on ET Studios and sharing all your insights with us. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.